Hello, hello. I'm Selene Castrovilla, and I am doing a pop-up episode of Life in Jest. My co-host Pascal can't be here because she's working. I wanted to talk about the Pope and his sad passing on the day it happened. I just didn't want to wait till we recorded again because then it'll take another week after that for it to be uploaded. And I wanted to talk about it while it was fresh in my mind and in everyone's minds. I'm sure anybody listening shares in my sadness over his loss, not because he had an untimely death. I mean, he lived a fairly long life, but because we've lost someone who really was a spokesperson for caring in the world. There's a lot of spokespeople for caring, but there's not a lot of people that actually get listened to. And the Pope was someone who was listened to. He made a difference, and I think people were striving to heed him. He did a lot of really great things, and I worried about who will come next, frankly. I hope that it's someone equally caring of all people and not being critical of choices people make or conditions in their lives, chosen or not. I hope that the next Pope will be just as transformative and revolutionary as Pope Francis was. I wanted to read one of the things in his last written speech. What a thirst for death, for killing, we witness each day in the many conflicts raging in different parts of our world. How much violence we see, often even within families, directed at men and women. How much contempt is stirred up at times toward the vulnerable, the marginalized, the migrants. On this day, I would like all of us to hope anew and to revive our trust in others, including those who are different than ourselves or who come from distant lands, bringing unfamiliar customs, waves of life, and ideas. For all of us are children of God. There's so much there in those few words that I really hope will be heeded. Of course, calling all of us children of God, that's his way of saying we're all loved. He obviously believed in God. I believe in God, but I don't know what it really means to be a child of God and what he expects of us. That's a whole other thing that I've touched upon in the past. But for the Pope, that just means that we're all the same. We're all, as I always say, we're all human. And what are we doing to each other? That's the thing that I want to talk about. What are we doing to each other? I don't understand. And he didn't understand. And he really believed, though, that all these things would end. And I want to believe, but when you look at the vulnerable, the marginalized, the migrants, all these people being targeted by our very own government. And how is this okay? This is not Democrat, Republican, anything political. This is hate. This is love versus hate. And the Pope felt, and also he said, I think in the speech that was read to the people yesterday, he was there, but he didn't have the strength to read it. He said that love has won, love has conquered hate. And he said that because he believed that happened as a result of Jesus rising. But there's a lot of things I have to say about that. Do I ever not have a lot of things to say? First of all, he believed that Jesus rose, obviously. Okay, well, if Jesus rose, fine. I hope he rose. That would be great. But, and I absolutely believe in reincarnation for sure. So, sure, why couldn't Jesus rise? But just because Jesus rose, it doesn't mean that love conquered anything. How did love conquer anything? He was still viciously murdered. And I mean, what a horrible way to die. That is brutal, to nail someone to a cross. Oh my God. Just because he rose, it doesn't mean that love conquers hate, because the hate still existed of the people that did that to him. So I don't get that. But say he's right. Say the Pope's right. And that proves that love conquered hate. Maybe it did in that moment to the Pope, but history and humanity show us that love has not conquered hate. And there's so much horror in this world, and some of which he mentioned. So how can we say that love conquered hate? We don't live in a fairy tale where, oh, this is the ending. Okay, the definitive love conquered hate. The end. No. In the Bible itself is so brutal, but we don't live in the Bible. We don't where there's some ending where Jesus rises and it's all good. That's not our reality. We don't live in the Lord of the Rings where, I don't know, they get the rings. I have no idea. I didn't actually see that or read it. I really am rooted in reality. That's me. And the reality is love has not conquered hate. I wanted to. But if you look at the world in history, I don't think we could say that love has conquered hate. I can't imagine what will make love finally conquer hate unless everybody stops all this. And in the moment, I think it's going the other way. What can we do? I don't know who's okay with all these horrible things that are happening. I wish everybody would listen to the Pope. But one person that visited the Pope right before he died is not listening to the Pope, and that's J.D. Vance. What is up with J.D. Vance? What a waste of breath for the Pope to spend any time with J.D. Vance. And it's just a waste of time and breath because that man, there's a man, it's a perfect example of a hypocrite. He claims he's a Catholic. Give me a break, okay? You're supposed to love people. You're supposed to care. You're not supposed to he himself is showing contempt and abuse of the vulnerable, the marginalized, and the migrants, isn't he? Isn't he? I don't know why the Pope even wasted his time talking to him. I mean, the problem is that the Pope believed in giving people a chance. The Pope believed that, people would listen. We have to learn that certain people are not going to change. They prove from their actions that they're not going to change. Is J.D. Vance suddenly going to say, oh, my bad, I want to help the migrants and the vulnerable and the marginalized. I don't want to continue persecuting people. I want to change everything that Trump is doing. I want to stand against what Trump is doing. No. And it's not even just Trump. Trump is carrying out what his backers want. Let's face the fact, okay? Trump used to be a Democrat. Trump used to be pro-abortion. Trump just has no problem changing his tune for anything. He doesn't care what he does as long as he gets what he wants. What he wants is absolute power and a lot of money. And that's it, okay? And Vance is probably the same way. Vance wrote that book, which sounded really good. I mean, Ron Howard made a movie of it. Hillbilly, Effigy? Something like that. And I have huge respect for authors, but he seems to have really changed everything about himself for the goal of power, for the goal of being the vice president. He absolutely changed everything. And that is just heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. What are we doing here? This is the opposite of being faithful to God or, to Christ or whatever it is in the Catholic religion, okay? But the Pope's got to know that J.D. Vance was not changing, okay? And I find it kind of sad that he spent some of his final moments talking to this contemptible human being. There might be, those of us who love Dateline, it's very suspicious that J.D. Vance was one of the last people to see the Pope. I mean, someone should check the Pope's drink. Did J.D. Vance put antifreeze in the Pope's, what do you call that stuff? Aperol spritz or something? I mean, I don't know. He died soon after seeing J.D. Vance. Can we get Josh Mankiewicz or Keith Morrison on this? I mean, I'm kidding, but am I? I just think it is really odd that J.D. Vance saw the Pope. Odd, tragic. We live in such a tragic world. On Saturday night, I was doing deliveries. As you know, I do deliveries for one of those food service, delivery companies. And I was sitting at a light facing a very large road called Sunrise Highway on Long Island. It's one of the major roads we have. And all of a sudden I saw a car. I never saw a car go so fast. It burst backwards. It It was in the westbound lane, but it was facing eastbound and roaring backwards so fast that the sparks under the engine were flying out. It almost looked like it was on fire. Okay, I've never seen anything like this. So I didn't know what happened. And there was a gas station on the side of me, and it just like pulled, it just went all in reverse and pulled there. And that's when I noticed that there was a car next to me that had been in some sort of an accident. I didn't know what else happened, but I knew it was really bad. And I called 911 and I told the operator, and I was describing things to the operator. And I don't know why they ask you all these questions that don't really matter, because like she was asking me to describe the cars. I'm like, but just send the ambulance. Just send the ambulance. Just send the ambulance. I knew at that point, I knew that somebody was under the wheel of the car next to me. And I couldn't figure out what happened. You know, when you're just like in the shock. It is just that moment. You know, that moment when everything is right, and then all of a sudden you see, oh no, in one moment, something so horrific has happened. And this, of course, happened to me the worst way possible when I lost my son, okay? But we should care about everybody, whether we know them or not. And I saw this person. I didn't know what was going on. I knew there was a person pinned under the car. And I saw so many people trying to help him, that is beautiful, that people are trying to help someone they don't know. That is a remarkable thing. But I was talking to this 911 operator, and she was asking me questions about the two cars. And I said, but you have people coming here. They'll see them. Why do I have to answer your questions about the cars? So I said, well, if you want to know the license plate of the Kia, I read it to her because I was right next to it. I'm like, there. You have something that everybody will see in a moment. And then the other car, I was like, I don't know. It looks white or cream also. And I really not going to get out of my car to study it for you. That's all I know. Next thing you know, they pull this guy out. Oh my God. They pulled him out like a crash test dummy. I don't want to see this stuff. And then they started doing the chest compressions. And I knew he was dead. And I started crying, I guess. I don't know at what point I started crying. And the 911 lady was like, still trying to get me to describe. I'm like, I don't know. They're doing chest compressions. They're doing the best they can. And it was, what I will say, it was beautiful that these people were trying to help a stranger, trying to save his life. But I knew he was dead. You could just see it. You could just see it. Why is this okay? For someone to take someone's life in that moment because it was selfish. So I'll get to that in a minute. I left. I'm like, I have to go. Because I couldn't help anybody there. It was just killing me to be there, right? So I continued on. I had already had one delivery in my back, and I had to go pick up another one at this really festive restaurant called Big Daddy's, where they'll celebrate Mardi Gras every night. It's a New Orleans themed restaurant. And I go in there and I'm crying. I'd been in there actually a little bit earlier, not that long before, to pick up another delivery. So I thought the women that was standing right by the delivery stuff that I had to pick up worked there, because that's what happened before. The people that worked there were standing there. So I come in and everybody's singing and there's live music. And I looked at this woman. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I saw someone die. And I told her what happened. And she's like, you want a drink? I'm like, no, I don't want to drink. I'm driving. And then I'm like, do you work here? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh my God. I thought I was talking to the waitstaff person. So there was nobody there that was working. It was just customers that were like singing and singing. So I just confirmed the order and took it. And then I had to find my way to do the delivery because everything was all blocked off. And I just stumbled around. I had to go around Sunrise Highway, and I thought I'd continue my work because A, I committed to doing these deliveries and people wanted their food. And B, it was better than just being alone with my own thoughts to have a mission, So I went on my mission. I brought the people their food and I did another delivery. And then I came back around and I picked up an order for Dairy Queen. And then it never occurred to me that everything would still be there. But I guess it's a crime scene when someone dies. There was more evidence that the person had died, which I knew anyway. But then I couldn't get to Dairy Queen because everything was all blocked off. So I went around and I parked. I decided to park in a parking lot as close as I could on Sunrise and walk to Dairy Queen. And there was crime scene tape across both driveways of Dairy Queen, which was so strange because there was no crime committed at Dairy Queen and no way that anyone could get in there because the traffic was diverted way before that. But nevertheless, I had to go under crime scene tape, which made me feel like some sort of a criminal. And I went in there, and the one guy was like, "We're closed." I'm like, "But I saw all the food sitting there." And I said, "Well, can I just pick up these 2 orders?" And another guy that was there was like, "Yeah, why not?" I don't know. The manager kind of had lost his mind, I think, because he'd been trying to, I guess, vet all the people that were calling for their orders and weren't getting them. And I was like, "Well, you can tell 2 people that they got their orders now." And I said, I saw, I watched the guy die. I'm pretty sure. Like I saw, I'm like, "Did he die?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, he died." He confirmed to me that the guy had died, which I knew in my heart, but I figured I'd ask. And then he goes, "Well, the guy in the Bentley, the other guy, he got arrested." I go, "Yeah, what did he get arrested for?" And he said, "Drunk driving." I was like, son of a bitch, why are people always drunk driving? Like, what is wrong with people? In one moment, you take someone's life in your hands. Do you ever notice the drunk driver never dies? Why doesn't the drunk driver die? Did you ever notice the drunk driver is fine? This guy went to the hospital with like minimal stuff, right? 19-year-old with a Bentley, another privileged fuck, right? Why are you giving a 19-year-old a Bentley? Why does he need that? You should just, and why don't you, it's not the parents' fault, I guess. I mean, they didn't know he was drunk, but it's his fault because he was drunk driving. I want a statement from these people. I think you should have to give a public explanation, not just in court. Like, upon arrest, they should be filmed to make a public explanation of why they drunk drove and felt the need to take someone's life, because that's what they did. Because we certainly know what we're doing when we do that. There's no way you don't know, okay? There's no way you don't know what could happen. So I would like an explanation. But where is God for all this stuff? Why does he let the drunk driver live and the people get killed? I want an explanation from God about this, okay? God took my son. I was supposed to learn from this, okay? I've stated this in other episodes, so just take my word, okay? Well, what is the lesson? The lesson is that God takes good people. That's the lesson. I don't know. I mean, certainly we're learning it over and over again, right? I am so stricken by all this. And we just go on. We just go on. My son is dead. This man is dead. This man, he was 48 years old. He was riding in a it's called a Polaris or something, a 3-wheeled motorcycle. And he got struck by this kid that I know that I saw the kid on facing the wrong way on the highway and shooting backwards. So he must have turned into traffic somehow on Sunrise, and apparently he hit the motorcycle and sent the motorcycle to collide with the Kia that didn't move much. It was at the light where I saw it, but it pushed it to crash into a telephone pole with the motorcycle in between. And that poor man was wet. That's how he wound up under the wheel of the Kia. Now, the Kia had 2 adults and 4 children, and the youngest child was 2. And I am very glad that they were okay. But to have to know that it's not your fault, of course, but you were in the instrument that was partially responsible for killing this man. That's scarring, okay? That's scarring for these people. These people, we're all scarred from this horrible thing. And this man has lost his life. And there was a woman with him who was seriously hurt, but apparently in stable condition when I last heard. So I'm glad she's okay. But she also has lost, I don't know if it's her partner. I don't know the situation. But this is just one example of the horror that goes on every frigging day. Okay? I know this isn't the end. I know that we come back. I communicate with my son. But I don't understand what the purpose is of all this torture for us. And I don't understand why a 19-year-old kid would make a choice to drive drunk. If he's driving a Bentley, he obviously had the money to call a cab. But no, he got behind the wheel of a vehicle instead of calling a cab from wherever he was. And this happens over and over again. We hear about it, and then still more people do it. So, what are the lessons? What are the lessons? What are the lessons of the Pope? Well, the Pope's lessons, I think, are clear, but will we heed them? Will we heed the Pope? It doesn't look good. Will J.D. Vance heed the Pope? He's not going to heed the Pope. What are we kidding? So what is this all for then? What is this all for? What is it for? Pope said that we're about life, not death. Really? Because I see a lot of death. So you take people living their lives, you kill them. Did God kill them? Is he instrument of death and that he willed it? I mean, I know he willed my son's death because I got the message a week before. It was ordained by God or approved by God. It got the stamp of approval. Okay. Let's face it. If God wanted to save people, he could. Okay. Or else, if you didn't believe that, why are you praying to God all the time? Okay. Everybody prays for God to help them. And how come some people get their prayers answered, but most don't? Why is that? Why is he picking and choosing who to help? Why do we have to go through all this hell? All right. I think I'm through with this rant. I just wanted to share this glorious moment. Well, you know me. I can never hold back what I'm thinking. I hope that we've learned something and we listen to the Pope's words. I hope that we get an equally caring Pope next time, because I respect him, even though I'm not a member of that faith, but I certainly respect somebody that cares about people. I'm in perpetual mourning, I guess. It's like that poem, Man Was Made to Mourn, right? It's like that. And I'd like to be funny, but it's a little beyond me right now. See, that's why I need Pascal. Thank you for listening. This is the name of the man who was killed. His name was Willie Singleton. He was a 48-year-old Bayshore resident. He had a 47-year-old female passenger with him. She sustained serious injuries, but was listed in stable condition at the time this article was written. And Brian Romero Guy August was the 19-year-old who was driving drunk. And he's charged with manslaughter, assault, and DWI. They gave him second degree, and I don't really understand. Manslaughter is killing a person by accident, right? So why would it be second degree manslaughter? What makes it first degree? Because I thought the difference between first degree and second degree is intent, but there really is no intent with manslaughter, is there? Because it's an accident. So, but they gave him second degree, and I think he should have first. I just want him to have the worst possible. I hope he gets what he deserves for this. He shouldn't be walking around. He should have to pay for what he did, because he knew what he was doing when he got behind that wheel. Hospitalized with minor injuries. He had a Bentley SUV, and the other vehicle was a 3-wheel slingshot motorcycle. So the motorcycle just didn't have a chance. That's a whole other thing. All right. Well, here is a quote from Cormac McCarthy from his book Child of God. This guy's amazing, his writing, and it's a stunning book. He writes about really horrible things, but he writes so beautifully. It really makes me question why I'm a writer, because I don't think anyone could write as well as Cormac McCarthy. He really is quite amazing. So here's the quote. "You think people was meaner then than they are now," the deputy said. The old man was looking out at the flooded town. No, he said, I don't. I think people are the same from the day God first made one. Take care. I forget what I always say. Adieu.